Welcome to Rogue Bogues, episode 28 of the basketball series. Mr. Pro, who is now about to leave Greece. How goes it?
Bogues, it's going pretty well, man. It's been a great trip out here, dude. It's good people out here. I don't know how there's a fucking skinny Greek ever. How they fucking eat, Bogues, it is unfucking real. In the last 3 days, we fucking cleared out the Mediterranean in any fucking fish. There's no fish left. Fishermen are fucking begging me to fucking leave town because they can't feed their families anymore. Because now if you want to buy crab or a fucking piece of haddock, it's $728 because I fucking totally flatlined the whole fish industry in this great country of
the economy. You just gotta the way they stay skinny, from what I understand, coffee and a lot of cigarettes. You know, the cigarettes. That's what you should do. You should take up smoking and you'll be skinny within a year. Who needs dieting?
Bogues, the fish is so good out here. I had some sea bass a few days ago near the water in this town called Loutraki. It was so good. After the first bite, I had to change my pants 3 fucking times. I've heard about food porn. I fucking finally experienced it. But let's be honest, I would probably have the same reaction to a fillet of fish in fucking McDonald's. But this fish in this food is unbelievable. Yeah, it's been a great time, though.
You can't beat Mediterranean. Mediterranean diet is one of the best in the world. I've spent many years there in Croatia in my off season, so very similar to Greece. Anyhow, let's get on to the basketball. We'll get on to the finals in a sec. I just want to say, go Nigeria, pro.
Go Nigeria.
Yeah,
go Nigeria.
Big win. As at time of recording, that game just ended. We'll talk about it a little bit later. At time of recording right now, I have the TV on in the background and the Australian Boomers are about to play Argentina. So hopefully we get a result by the end of this podcast. But let's get on to the finals. I'm not sure if you caught game 2 while you were over there, pro.
I did. The game 1, and I'm telling you what, the Phoenix Suns were so lucky that I didn't watch the game because it wasn't on in the hotel I was in Loutraki, but it wasn't on in the middle of the night in the hotel I'm in Athens. So I think the deal is if I can pick you and watch the game in a non-English speaking language, that I think that you might be okay. But if I watch the game in America, you're fucked. No. I thought it was great. What do you think about the game, Bogues? And I'll chime in after what you give your thoughts.
Obviously 2-0 at time of recording. Look, I think I've got 2 different takes. I think Milwaukee's just looked a little bit clunky at times, but Phoenix has played the best that they can play. So I'm not sure. I think Milwaukee can go home and salvage these next 2 games. I really think they can. They ran into a buzzsaw in game 2. You know, Phoenix shot the piss out of the ball from 3. They don't miss free throws as a team. They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the league, and they've had a phenomenal run from the free throw line all playoffs. They're shooting it. I don't even know what the clip is over the whole playoffs and finals combined, but they were at high 80s last game. So they played as well as they could, and Milwaukee was still within striking distance. You know, there was one possession where they cut it down to 5, I think, and 2 offensive rebounds in the same possession, kick out 3 to CP3 in the corner, gets it back out to 8. So they were within striking distance for as well as Phoenix played. So I think they can still get 2 games at home, and the pressure's somewhat going to be on Phoenix to play that same way throughout the series. But look, you'd favour everyone and their dog and their book, and the sports bettors and the bookies are favouring Phoenix 2-0 up. No matter how you look at it with home court advantage, they're definitely the favourites. CP3 has been phenomenal. Aiden hasn't played that well this series so far, but has still finished with big double-double lines. I mean, game 1 he had a monster line, but I felt like in game 2 he didn't play that well, but still finished with a double-double and made some key plays towards the end. There was that infamous kind of ramp up that Monty Williams gave him that timeout. And Giannis, he bounced back in game 2 in a big fashion, starting to look like he's moving a bit better. But the Euro steps are gone, pro. He's not, I've noticed he's not really comfortable in that open floor, exposing that knee on a one bounce Euro, and he's kind of stayed away from that. So I don't think he's not completely healthy. To what percentage, who knows? PJ Tucker's an interesting one for me, pro. That's what I want you to get into a little bit, and we'll get into some other players. But PJ Tucker, I just don't think there's that many minutes for him. You know, I don't think there's not that superstar wing that he can play his role to shut down and hit the corner and then go to the offensive end and hit the corner 3, where right now he's a bit of an offensive liability, but it's not equating itself to be worth it for the defense that they don't really need. I think that they need more scoring. So I'll get on to some other names later, but how do you see all that, and do you agree with the PJ Tucker analysis?
Bogues, I do. I do. Like, PJ is really, the way he impacts the game is, like you said, he should shut down dominating wing players. He could, he could toughen them up. I mean, he just makes it tough on them. He can make that corner three. But as you elaborated early on, like one of our first podcasts when talking about Milwaukee, you were always worried about the bench. And now, because of the couple of injuries they've had, and the bench got even cut down even more, that they don't have the firepower to stay with Phoenix. Now, they could probably take a game. I think they'll take one out. They'll probably, if they're going to take a game, they're going to take game 3. But I just don't think they're good enough. I think Phoenix is playing with unbelievable confidence. And I don't care what type of team you are. If you have confidence and you're playing free and loose, you're a fucking hard team to stop. And I agree with you. I think they need to probably cut down PJ's minutes and get more offense going, because they need it. Giannis, I'll tell you what, Giannis, this is great for Giannis. He's hurt, with the knee, and you're right, he doesn't expose it. I hate that fucking Euro step anyway because of that reason, exposing the knee, and he's probably feeling some pain in that. But I'll tell you what, one thing that I'm really impressed with on Giannis's end is his ability to sort of ease into the game. He missed some free throws early in game 2, but then he just sort of, that third quarter, he just sort of put his head down, started easing into it with his scoring, with his ability to get to the rim, made his free throws, and really played a hell of a game and kept them in it. But it's just hard for him because they're just going through him because he's the only really consistent scoring threat that they've had throughout the series. Middleton's been up and down. Drew Holiday's been mostly down. Lopez has been good when they got it to him on the block. But and my hat's off to Phoenix and what they're doing too. I don't want to take away from what they're doing. Chris Paul has been unbelievable in pick and rolls. Bridges has been effective. Booker has been outstanding. Ayton, like you said, has been a little bit up and down, but again, I think this is all good for both sides. It's good for Giannis, even if they lose the series, which I think they'll lose probably 4-1, 4-2. It's great to deal with this because it gives him a taste of what's needed what he needs to get better at, what, the mistakes that he made that he can, sort of build on. And I think this is great for him, even if the series doesn't go where it wants it to for him. And then for Phoenix, this is just going to make them stronger. I mean, they've got their role players kicking. They've got Chris Paul doing, Booker and Ayton and the rest of the gang. They're it's been a very entertaining, even though it's 2-0, it's been entertaining. Milwaukee's been fighting hard, but I just think that Phoenix is just too good. And I don't think Milwaukee has the firepower.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. It's just gonna be interesting with the injuries too. Saric is out for the series. Torrey Craig, they haven't released anything yet. They're pretty two important role players for him. They give, more so from the point of giving their starters rest. So I think if Milwaukee can get 3, I think the pressure somewhat goes a little bit back to Phoenix because they're going to be playing, Chris Paul's playing low 40s, Booker the same. So fatigue, injury could play its part, which is why I think I think Phoenix is going to go all in. Obviously, for everyone out there, everyone wants to win every playoff game, but I think Phoenix is going to go all in for this game 3. I don't think they want a situation where this series drags out. But the Holiday and Middleton thing that you addressed, that's been the big one. Holiday, he's really struggled this playoffs in general. He had a few shining moments in that Game 7 against Brooklyn, but they gave up a lot to get him. They did get rid of Bledsoe, who wasn't great for them in the playoffs, and there was a lot of questions about his shooting. But, I mean, Drew Holiday hasn't looked like that much of an upgrade right now as we speak, right? And they gave up a lot of picks. They gave up some former picks for that, and that they're the two guys that Giannis, generally in a regular season game, Giannis has a 40 ball, they're winning by 10, and for him to have that kind of night and they still, couldn't get over the line and weren't really within striking distance late in the game is concerning. So I think Milwaukee, do you maybe play Forbes more? He's a flat out standstill shooter, knockdown shooter, but he's horrible defensively. We saw at the end of game 1, Phoenix were kind of, looking for him defensively to put him in actions, but you might have to do that and get Tucker out of that lineup and probably make it a bit more of a shooting lineup around Giannis. That's the only really way you're going to get through this series. I think they're going to make an adjustment. I'm just thinking out loud via the podcast. What is the adjustment? What is the Steve Kerr small ball death lineup that came in game 3 and 4 of the final series? Whatever it is, right? What is that adjustment? They're hindered a little bit because of injuries, but I'm trying to figure out. I mean, Forbes is the only one I can really come to where you maybe put him in a little bit more and go a little bit more small ball style. But yeah, I think they're going to be clutching at straws.
Yeah, I mean, they did give up a lot for Holiday, and I don't want to bash Holiday. He's been a great player, a very good player throughout his career.
He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's just he's just struggled.
Oh yeah, and I know you're not bashing him. I'm just saying, like, my thing is he's been pretty consistent for them, and he's getting into the rut, which. This is the worst time in your career to have a rut in an NBA Finals appearance, especially with him and Middleton. Middleton's playing okay, but not great. And you got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to ask yourself, okay, if my shot's not going, how, if my jumper's not falling, how can I help the team? You got to make adjustments within yourself because this is where you get valued. 30 million, 20 million, 1 million, whatever you're making for a salary, this is where the microscope comes out and said, are you really worth this? And it is what it is. The game's way overanalyzed as it is. And he's struggling and he's got to find a way and they got to find a way. And it's tough because they just don't have it. Like they don't have enough. And I agree with you. It's all about adjustments. Like when I was working for Kobe and, they get down in a series, I'm not a huge Phil Jackson guy, but Phil always made adjustments that sort of put them in position to win. And I think that this is where, as a coach, I talk about it all the time about how coach is mostly irrelevant in the NBA. This is where coaching is relevant. This is where you really earn your money and earn your reputation, where if you can make an adjustment. Now, there's only so many adjustments you can make if you got a lack of talent versus the other team and a lack of a little bit of mojo, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, you can go Forbes a little bit more. You can continue to post up Lopez, get guys in foul trouble, especially if you could force switches on a 1-5 pick and roll. Maybe get CP down on the block and maybe force a couple of fouls. I don't know. I'm not an X and O fucking genius. I'm more of a junior college version of it. But I think that you got to find some other way to sort of generate offense and it'll be interesting what they do. I'm always interested in what coaches do to make adjustments in the series. So if they're going to make some noise, Bogues, I think they're going to make in Milwaukee. They're going to make it to the next game. That's my opinion.
Yeah, they've got no choice. Do they go Giannis at the 5 to start? Then it takes away Lopez, shortens your rotation. I don't think it's that. I'd like to see Lopez post up more and put some pressure on Aiden. We haven't seen Aiden have to defend someone, backing him down and going at him in the block. Get him in foul trouble, maybe tire him out a little bit, get in his head. We haven't seen that. Giannis did a great job in game 2 of attacking Aiden. Even when Aiden was on him, he was going through him, shoulder into his chest and dunking on him. So, you'd like to see that also happen at times when Aiden's guarding Lopez, because a lot of times Aiden can get his rest. They can put him to the 5. Crowder takes Giannis, and then Aiden's basically just guarding a shooting big, which is the easiest thing in the league to do. You just stay home, and run in, grab a few rebounds, and that's kind of it. So, Budenholzer's got his work cut out for him. I'm sure they're cutting a lot of tape. It'll be interesting to see what the chess move is, if there is one, their lineup's shortened. They've got a lot of injuries themselves. So Jeff Teague's now coming to minutes. He didn't play a lot during the regular season. People are questioning that, but you got to give guys a breather when you can. And their lineup is just so short right now, which will be the same issue for Phoenix now in game 3, depending on, this Torrey Craig. They're saying there was no major damage done, but it sure didn't look good when he left the floor. So I think both teams are going to be light on cattle this next game, but it will be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's either going to come to two things, Bogues. They're going to say, you know what, we'll make small adjustments and we're going to lean on our home court. We're going to lean on our fans. We're going to lean on being familiar at our home court and being comfortable, and then making a couple adjustments, and maybe we could squeak this one out 2-1, maybe force a 2-2 if we get some momentum. Or they're just going to say, you know what, we're going to go totally fucking radical on this game 3, and we're going to make a huge change, like you said, like a Giannis at the 5 deal, and say go for fucking broke. And and maybe we could change the momentum of the series by making a huge change. Now, the flip side of that is you make a fucking huge change and you get blown up by 28. It's a fucking world of hurt, and everybody and their mother's going to be coming down on you with a rain of fucking pain in the media about it. But hey, look, this is why you make the fucking big money. This is why, if you're viewed as one of the best coaches in the league, you got to earn your fucking money now and put your team in the best position to win. It'll be interesting. Seriously, it'll be an interesting deal to watch.
Yeah, going back to Milwaukee as well, the fans there haven't had a final series since Kareem. So, to have 2 games in Milwaukee, it's great for the city. I know I spoke to a few people that are over there right now that are lifelong Bucks fans, and they're pumped, regardless of the 2-0 deficit, what it does for a small market like Milwaukee, the city, the restaurants, especially when you consider the coronavirus and everything that's going on. I think it's a really good boost for the local economy, number one, and I think the fans are pumped for it. Like I said, Kareem was the last guy. I think it might have been 75, I believe, was the last championship they won with Kareem. Haven't even been close since then. So to be back there is great. And then Phoenix have had a long hiatus as well from winning a championship. So 2 teams that I think either one wins. Not many non-Phoenix or non-Suns fans can be too mad about, because it's just good to see a small market in there. All right, did you see our friend Rachel Nichols and her whole debacle?
Bogues, who the fuck didn't see that? I mean, it's like forget about world economy, forget about global fucking warming, forget about masks. Like, this is the number one story that you see every 10 fucking seconds about this Rachel Nichols thing. What's your take?
Oh, man, what is my take? For those that don't know, Rachel Nichols was recorded back in 2020. Did you hear how it got recorded, Pro? First and foremost, like
a hot mic or something. Was she in her hotel room it kept recording? Jesus, I'll tell you what. These female reporters for ESPN. And what happens in their hotel room? Erin Andrews had a problem in her hotel room. She's got a problem in her hotel room. Stay at an Airbnb next time. Forget about the fucking hotels. They're bad luck.
Well, apparently,
go ahead.
So she was in the bubble last season, the infamous bubble at Disney World, was doing a lot of her ESPN work via her room and video podding, essentially, or video streaming, whatever you want to call it. She was doing the jump, and I guess she didn't turn the camera off properly, and then had a private phone call with LeBron's PR agent, Adam Meldolson, longtime advisor of Lakers superstar LeBron James and his agent. And the camera and the mic caught the conversation. And basically, the wording was something like this, basically saying during the conversation, she also sought advice from Mendelsohn because she believed her bosses were advancing Taylor at her expense. Now, Maria Taylor is a African-American lady or a black lady that is moving up through the ESPN ranks, doing a phenomenal job. Was covering football, I believe, as well. And I guess Nichols is starting to get a little bit insecure about it. I just want them to go somewhere else. It's in my contract, by the way. This job is my contract in writing. Nichols told Mendelsohn referring to hosting coverage during the NBA Finals a few minutes after saying ESPN was feeling pressure about racial diversity. Basically just said that she's going to get moved on because of the diversity quota and it is what it is, and wasn't too happy about it. And what's ironic about this, Pro, is that Rachel Nichols she's part of the woke mob. She's part of her storytelling with the jump and everything else. She's on that woke side of things and kind of has to be with the company she works for and working in the NBA, but not woke enough, Pro. Not woke enough. Not enough woke credit points. She's got the female woke point, and that's about it. So they finally moves her away from covering the NBA Finals now. And it's just been a big, like you said, it's not that important. I don't think it's just blown up because it's during the NBA Finals. Probably the wrong time for anything like that to come out. But what's lost in all of this is how this recording came out. Are you familiar with that?
Again, it was recording from a device that, like, from her laptop or something, or a camera, right? And then somebody from ESPN, shocker, fucking leaked it and then just started this shitstorm, right? Like, that's sort of how it
obviously
came.
Maria's got a hold of it, and allegedly, I would say, I'd be a gambling man to say that she's used that at an opportune time. She's infamously in contract negotiations right now, Maria Taylor, and asked for $7 million, I believe it was, a couple of weeks before this tape recording. I think it was $7 million, which is more than Stephen A. Smith or around his ballpark. And then coincidentally, a week later, this recording came out. So for those out there to put 2 and 2 together and figure things out, but ultimate chess move by her to sit on that recording for this long and now use it at a time where she's probably needed more than ever. She's also now going to leverage people with, their pitchforks out to get Rachel Nichols to say, hey, ESPN, you better sign me. The fans want me, So I think she's a decent analyst and reporter. I think it detracts from her body of work, but I think it's also an interesting chess move that just, coincidences don't happen like this, bro.
Well, Bogues, first of all, I think Rachel Nichols is full of shit. Like, I'm not a big Rachel Nichols fan. I think she's fake. I think that, she tries to get attention on every broadcast, and she doesn't really have many original thoughts. She just wants to go where the wind blows. She's big on BLM and she's big on that. I don't think she's big on BLM. I think she's big on MMM, the me, myself movement. She will do and say anything in the public eye for people to love her, to continue to get raises, to continue to get more power. And she'll say and do anything. But that being said, even though I think she's full of shit, she made a comment about what she thinks and feels about why she didn't get, a particular position. And let's be honest, we hear it every fucking day that this person got this job because she's a woman or he's a guy. This person's black or this person's white, and that's why they got a job. She didn't say anything demeaning. She just said what she thought. And look, we hear it every day. So I don't really blame her for that. I blame her for being a fucking fake and saying, she's all for minorities in the workplace. She's all for that movement. And now when it actually happens, she's fucking all against it. And look, she makes $1.5 million. Taylor makes $1 million. They offered her $5 million. She wants Stephen A. Smith money, who's making $8 million. So I think she wants in that neighborhood of 7 and 8. This thing is all about leverage. And yeah, she was sitting on the recording. Hey, look, good for her. I mean, she's trying to use that as leverage. Look, you need leverage in this world. And I don't blame her for that. It's a complete shit show, but it goes to show you that most people in society are completely full of fucking shit. They tell you one thing, all for this. When anyone to me is radical on one side, to me, I think they're full of fucking shit. For me, I'm vulgar at home. I'm vulgar off the camera and off the mic, and I'm okay with that because I'm not a fucking fake. But you get so many, especially in the media, you get so many fake fucking people who throw it at you one way, and then when the camera's off them, they're a fucking complete different way. So, like I said, I'm not a Nichols fan. I think she just wants to be loved too much and doesn't have an original opinion that might have to go against the grain a little bit, which that's what I like out of anybody in life, including media. But I just think it's a fucking shit show. And, like I said, I don't think her comments are all that bad. She just that's what she was feeling. And that's what she thought. She thought she got screwed for the job. I don't know if she got screwed for the job. I'm not in fucking ESPN. But
that's all we hear, though, bro. You made a valid point. That's all we hear is this team needs to hire someone. An NBA team needs to hire a female coach. So this is my conversation back podcasts ago. Is that detracts now? If there's a really good woman that's supposed to be a head coach and get a head coaching job one day, gets the first one, there's going to be sentiment that people are like, it's a token job because it's. There's all this pressure about it. It's the same thing within ESPN. You got to be careful what you wish for. And it's just, the other factor of Nichols using the female card to progress her career years ago, how hard it was for her to break into a male-dominated society. She forgot to mention that she has family ties to Hollywood producers and whatnot, which I only just learnt recently. So I'm led to believe that she's done very, very well to use those contacts to go from basically, I think she was a beat writer at one point in Washington, D.C. to now the face of that ESPN The Jump. So, she can't complain about it neither. But I agree. What she said wasn't overly controversial because there's some truth to it. That it's well known that there's quotas now for hiring an African-American coach or analyst or a woman or this or that. And it is what it is. If you're denying that or thinking that's controversial to say, then you must not like hearing the truth. But one kicker in all of this was LeBron James's PR agent. Right, so LeBron's probably one of the most woke in the NBA. Loves to push whatever cause is trending, except for the China one. The Olgas in China and the concentration camps that they have over there to make his shoes. They're fine. That's all good. Don't know much about that situation. Not educated enough, but everything else I am. Anyway, his PR person or his that's employed by him and Rich Paul was caught on that mic saying, "I don't know. I'm exhausted. Between Me Too and Black Lives Matter, I got nothing left." Nichols then laughed. Goes back to your point. people that are in power, people that are in the media, people that are preaching to the choir being you plebs out there like Pro and I are now. I'm a washed up athlete, so I'm a pleb. Preaching to us, they don't give a shit. it's in black and white from LeBron's very own PR person, right? It's all to create your brand, your mystique, get marketing, you're doing the right thing. That's all it is. I've yet to meet someone. There's not many celebrities that I've met or basketball players that preach this stuff nonstop that live that life. I'm just going to put it out there. There's not many. There's probably, if I can count on one hand that actually live the life that they're preaching everyone else should live. And that would be rare. I only need one or two fingers on one hand. But probably hit it on the head. It is what it is. As long as it doesn't affect me, I'll preach it. As soon as it affects me, Rachel Nichols, Rick Carlisle, whoever it is, no, then now it's not fair to me. Well, that's what you're doing to everyday people, and that's what you're preaching to everyday people. So I don't feel sorry for either of them. I think ESPN's got a massive problem anyway with all this going on, and I'm just sitting back eating popcorn and laughing my ass off because I love when the woke and the people that are offended by everything go after each other. It's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it's just typical. Like people, it's just human nature. They'll do anything and say anything to get more power, more money. And on the flip side of that, they think by saying it day in and day out. Look, if you want to support BLM, do it. If you want to support whatever you want to support, that's on you. That's how you feel. That's fine. But you think by just, if you're fake, like Rachel Nichols is, obviously, she does it. And she's going to expect to get protected by if she makes a mistake. Fuck that. In today's society, nobody gives a fuck. They'll love you until you make a mistake, and then they'll run off like they're going after fucking Titanic and fucking running off and pushing off pregnant mothers into the water to get on a fucking lifeboat because they don't want anything to do with you after you fucking do the shit. And that's it. Because she's a complete fucking fake, and now she's just getting exposed for it. Like I said, I don't care what she said. That's up to her. That's her feeling on it. But whatever, it is what it is. It's just another fucking day at the fucking circus.
Yeah, it is, and we see it with politics in the States at least, and even over here where they're going to cancel each other out. But now you've got kids not talking to their father or mother because they voted a different way to them, or their grandfather because they voted a different way, and it's just a crazy time with all this shit. So, and they're the people that are affected by people that are in the public eye, journalists, your Rachel Nichols of the world that are preaching to the choir. They're preaching to everyday people who buy this shit. And that's what gets me. They're preaching to people that think, oh, wow, that Rachel Nichols she's all about it. Fight the power. Great. Now, I'm going to do what because Rachel Nichols told me, right? And then it affects their life because they stop talking to their brother or their husband or their wife or whoever it is because, you've got views that Rachel Nichols said are wrong or whatever it is, right? Well, they don't give a fuck at all. They don't care. They
don't give two shits.
And that's what we try to relate to everyday people is like, stop following celebrities, stop following people, athletes that are giving you their political views on like, this guy's a good president because of XYZ. Like, make your own educated decision, do your own reading. If you're influenced by an athlete, celebrity, or a talking head on ESPN, I feel sorry for you, number one, because you don't even probably know what's happening to you, but number two, just do your own research. So, yeah, it's been fun to watch. You move that one on into some Kyrie Irving. There was an interesting podcast. Matt Sullivan, apparently a beat writer who worked for the Brooklyn Nets a number of years ago, or last season and the season before. He had some bombshells on a podcast with Dan Le Batard. And, yeah, I mean, basically told them on a show that the Nets cap, they're circumnavigating it. Is that the right word? Circumnavigating, same shit, I guess, and various ways in which they made KD and Kyrie feel in charge. So he reckons he spoke with high-ranking official and the Nets who watches over the money and basically says there is a blank check for those guys as soon as they got here, whether that's buying a girlfriend or a girlfriend on the side. So I hope none of those guys are married or have a current girlfriend because he's just throwing them under the bus. Or getting a house in California for the week if they're there for a game or party. Putting money for the boys and equipment for random shit. They're totally cool with covering that. But they had to have some meetings with them because every week it was something new and they had to adjust the numbers. So I think that's what makes the Nets a modern franchise. So his argument was they're a modern franchise. They're doing things how you should do it in the modern world. It's not their fancy facilities or their defensive schemes. It's that they are willing to put up with this. Pro, number one, how has this report not garnered an investigation from the NBA? Because this is blatant salary cap cheating and tampering. Like, I mean, if Kawhi got in trouble or Magic got in trouble for the Kawhi thing and all that kind of stuff, this is blatant. Like, if they're buying party houses when they go on the road and flying their boys out and paying for equipment, that's surely some sort of illegality with the cap, isn't it, Pro?
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty amazing sort of revelation the guy made. But yeah, to me, the interpretation of the CBA is this is a multi-million-dollar fine, multiple draft pick sort of cost for the Brooklyn Nets if this is true, because the rules of the NBA state, like, you can only do so much for players. There's only so many things you could actually do for them besides their salary and bonuses and things. But if you're having a no pun intended, a rogue operation where you're financing these things for players on the side, that is an amazing, amazing thing where, if the NBA catches wind of it, I mean, it should be a big fine and big investigation. If it is actually true, with this report. But it goes to show that people will do anything at any price to keep your superstars happy, to keep the money rolling in and keep you at a championship contender, where you'll do anything and break any rule possible to get this thing done. But this is, I mean, my eyes flipped after hearing this. This is there's a lot of tomfuckery that happens in the NBA. This might be an all-timer, a top 10 all-timer for sure, if this is actually true. This is fucking amazing, with the girlfriends on the side, the houses, that's a pretty fucking... Some
teams would have a pretty big checkbook if it was some guys that are single. I'll put that disclaimer, have double-digit girls all around different cities. That's an expensive payment for the Brooklyn Nets. That's a lot of lobster and filet and suites at the Ritz-Carlton and flights for their girlfriends. Geez, like, you'd love to see the bottom line, but that is blatant cheating in my opinion, because all that can do now is say, oh no, we're cool with that because it didn't go to the player. Right, cool. So then I sign a 1.9 vet min deal and you pay my boy, you pay Pro $15 million to be my chef. Where's the line, right? Like, it's one of those things.
Like they said, Bogues, it's the NCAA version. When the NBA catches the Brooklyn Nets cheating, they'll definitely put it on the fucking Houston Rockets or the fucking the Minnesota Timberwolves or the fucking Detroit Pistons. You know what I'm saying? Those guys are gonna get fined the fuck out of themselves. So for not wearing, for a dress code violation, they're gonna fine the fucking Pistons about $500,000. But yeah, it'll be interesting, man. It's fucked up.
Yeah, and there was a lot of gems in this podcast, so I if people want to go and listen to it, it's on YouTube. Google it with the names I gave you earlier, Matt Sullivan and Dan Labatard. The other interesting one I found in there were, he gave some comments around Kyrie Irving, and this one really was eye-boggling to me. The quote went like this: Kyrie was empowered enough to swap guys off the Nets roster for this season because they didn't necessarily agree with his politics or his view of player empowerment when it came to his kind of bubble boycott call. Garrett Temple told me straight up, like players in leadership, if you go against what they want you to do, then they won't want you back. And if that's the case, I don't want to be on this team. Coincidentally, most of the Euro guys that were on that team were all gone after the bubble. So there is a bit of smoke to that. And that to me is absolutely mind-boggling. So you're basically bringing your politics, individual politics, whatever they are, you're bringing them to an athletic event, a basketball game, a locker room, where your sole job and cause is to win a basketball game. You're saying, hey, do you agree with my politics? No. Go to the GM, get him out of here. He doesn't agree with what I'm trying to do here. Now, player empowerment. There's different definitions of player empowerment. There's different definitions of social causes that people support. We know BLM was very divisive. There were people that loved it and there were people that hated it. There were people that were in the middle that didn't care either way. But if you've got a player now in a locker room that's not only a player, but a superstar and a guy that's one of three that's looked up to on that team as a veteran leader, an all-star and potential Hall of Famer, that's pretty intimidating. You're a second round pick that, has your own ideals. You got to toe the line and buy in. And we talk about Kwame Brown's podcast, from months ago, that's his kind of point. It's the go along, get along game. And you see this in locker rooms now. That's a pretty concerning thing to kind of read for me.
Yeah, this has been going on for the last 40 years at least, folks. Like, Now, the player politics stuff and player empowerment, well, more player politics really hasn't been a big deal. Maybe it's probably started the last 10 years or so. But like, I read a great book about the Los Angeles Lakers. It's called Showtime. I think the author is Jeff Pearlman. And he was saying that Magic had that type of power with the Lakers. And like, he would party and, like party it up and take girls to bed basically side by side with fucking Jerry Buss, because Jerry Buss wanted to be around Magic Johnson that much. They would chase women together, party. And because of that, and also he wanted to keep Magic a Laker for the rest of his life. He would do anything for him. So there was there was revelations about that where they would chase women and party together. But also like there was one time like in training camp where a player like an end of the bench guy was fucking Magic up, like roughing him up, and like brought Magic to the ground on one possession. And he goes like something like this, "Motherfucker, you'll be gone tomorrow." And that fucking guy was cut the next day. And it's nothing. It's an incredible book. It's an incredible book. I would definitely recommend anyone reading it. But because it's a real view, like cocaine problems with the team and all the party and all that stuff. But that's what it is, because GMs, especially in today's game, their fucking hands are tied because these guys flip on them every 2 or 3 years. They go to another team. So you need to, like, especially your superstars, whatever they tell you to do, you got to do or they're fucking gone, because they got you by the balls anyway. So it just goes to show you that, hey, look, it was player movement and things like that and chasing women 40 years ago with owners and things. Now it's, hey, if you don't agree with my politics or whatever. Now, I don't know if that's true. It might be, it might not be as far as the political thing, but definitely if like those superstars don't want you there for one reason or another, they'll fucking get you out. I definitely believe that side of it. And it just goes to show you that's just sort of where we are today, where if you have all the power as players and as superstars, you could call the fucking shots, because what's the GM going to do? If you leave, it's their ass. They'll get rid of the GM and coach in 28 organizations before they get rid of the superstar. They will have no qualms about that, because the player is more important than the culture of the team or the GM or who the coach is, and probably 27 organizations. And it just goes to show you, it's like that in Brooklyn.
And these are the same people preaching diversity and equality, right? So, as long as you are diverse with your views that align with mine, you're cool with me. It just contradicts everything that a lot of guys and girls out there preach. When you're gonna cut someone based on what they believe in. Now this could also factor in. Let's not forget, the NBA is a very religious league for the most part. There's a lot of Christians in the league, and I felt that a little bit under Mark Jackson. I probably, albeit I was probably making too much money to be cut on the spot for not towing the line and being all in with all that. But it's the same kind of thing. Religion and politics, you just don't. That should never come into a locker room, and unfortunately, it has. It has, because of what's going on in the world. It has because of, the riots over the last year in the States. The NBA got involved, and it can be divisive. And whether you believe on, once again, whether you believe on that side of things or not is not the point of this conversation. It's like everyone should have their right. That if you believe in BLM, fantastic. If you don't, fantastic. If you hate Trump, that's great. If you love Trump, that's great. If you love Biden, hate Biden, whatever, like that should have no bearing on your athletic performance, and should have no bearing on you as a person, right? And that's where we're at as a society. It's like, oh, he's this, so he's not with us. It's like, well, have you spoken to him or her? Have you, had that conversation? Whereas it's as simple as like, oh, these guys didn't want to boycott a game because of something I believed in, get them out of here. That's really fucked up. And if that is the case, it's kind of a wild accusation to make. So it makes me believe that it is pretty close to the truth, and it was a beat writer that's pretty close, and he's got Garrett Temple quoted in black and white. So I'd hardly believe that it was a lie, but that's pretty concerning to me if that's the truth. Yeah.
I mean, it goes to show you, Bogues, in life, if you have leverage over somebody, most people are going to exploit that leverage. And, these superstar players, I mean, even today with like above average players seem to have all this leverage. Like, these teams, again, never put their foot down. There's a difference between like not listening to players and treating them brutally, which no player is treated brutally in the NBA, let's be honest, And there's a difference between getting railroaded on a daily basis by it, by players, by agents, by things like that. At some point, you got to have some fucking balls at some point and say, enough's a fuck enough. We're going to pay you. We're going to treat you with respect. You're going to stay at the finest hotels. You get this salary. We're going to give you a voice, like, you know, in whatever message you're trying to put out there. We're going to do that for you. But in return, don't tell us how to fucking do our jobs. Don't tell us what fucking players to keep or try to pick up. We'll ask you your opinion at times, and we'll ask you to weigh in. But we got a job to do, just like you got a job to do. And like, you got to respect the line, like we respect the line. And at some point, somebody's got to show some fucking balls and say enough's enough, because it's ruining the sanctity of the game, and it's ruining just the respect of the game. But it goes to show you that, you know, you got to get to a dark place sometimes and do some shit you don't want to do to fucking win a championship, or at least have a chance to win one. And it just goes to show you what's happening in the league. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad and pathetic, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is, but it's not going to change, because that's what you're empowering. I just always get a laugh when it's the very people preaching everyone's equal, diversity, inclusion. Everyone should be included. Oh wait, hold on a second. You don't want to boycott this NBA game? Get the fuck out of here. You're not equal with me, buddy. On your bike. Go play in Indiana. So you saw Jamal Mosley, head coach of the Orlando Magic Pro. Great signing for Jamal. First and foremost, his first head coaching job. We've spoken about him at length. He was a head assistant at the Dallas Mavericks the last couple of years, or last 4 or 5 years at least. Former import in the NBL for NBL fans, and yeah, he's got the deal to turn that dark and gloomy Orlando Magic around. He's got a hell of a job ahead of him, because they're in all kinds of problems. Some young talent there, but I don't know. You just don't know which way their roster's going and who they're building around. Really, they're in a full rebuild. I'll say it again, full on rebuild. But yeah, good signing. I didn't see any particulars about the deal. Did you see any particulars? I didn't see any years or how much he's getting.
Bogues, I don't think the deal's officially done, but when Woj and these guys say it's like heading that way, it's probably a matter of days before they sort of get everything ironed out. They're probably, dealing on the years and the guarantee, and, they're just going back and forth on the particulars now. They probably, in my opinion, probably agreed to it, but just sort of have to make sure the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. And I think Jamal's an outstanding human being, a very loyal person. Who really he's great with the players. He's paid his dues. Like I told you, I met him when he was playing in Spain before he went to Australia. A friend of mine, Dave Hoppler, shooting coach, used to work with him when he was in San Diego. And I was working for the Celtics at the time. And Jamal was visiting a friend in the area, and Dave called me and said, "Hey, this guy Jamal Mosley is coming to work out. He wants a place to work out. Can you work him out?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's great." Our team was on the road, so he spent a few days together. And then all of a sudden, like 5 years, 6 years later, I'm in Chicago, and Dave Hoppler and I go to the fucking Denver Nuggets game against the Chicago Bulls. And who's working out guys, playing defense like Bruce fucking Bowen on guys in pregame? It's Jamal Mosley. I said, "Isn't that Jamal Mosley?" He goes, "Yeah, he's an unpaid intern. Like I think George Karl was paying him out of his own pocket, and he was basically an intern." And then he just went from there to Cleveland for a while. He went to Denver for a while. I think he moved up there, went to Cleveland, and then we brought him in Dallas, and I've always been a fan. It's a tough job. It's not a great job. And we talked about it before, about assistants sometimes having to take these rough jobs. But at least it gives him experience running his own team. And I think that he could do the best he can by holding the guys accountable, teaching them how to be pros. He can't control what the front office does with players and contracts and things, which they haven't been very good, with, assembling great talent around the roster. As far as the young guys going forward, they traded all their veterans and all their good players. So yeah, his work's cut out ahead of him, but there's only 30 of these fucking jobs. And sometimes they go assistants only get offered these bad jobs. Well, there's only 30 of these fucking things. And the problem with the NBA, Bogues, for these guys is one day you're hot as assistant, and then the next day you're not, and like you're forgotten, and then you get all these other people that are applying. You get all these lifers that get fired that are going to go for these jobs too, and then it's tough. So I'm happy for Jamal. I think it's a great job for him. I think he can learn on the job. I think he's paid his dues, and I think he'll be pretty good. Look, he's going to be, a victim of his talent. Either he's going to be good if they acquire talent, or they're not going to be good. But again, it's great for the experience. It's great fucking money. And you get a chance to, all those ideas you have on the second seat over from the head coach that you have in your head, now you could actually put on the court and see what works and what doesn't. I think Jamal's going to be fine. I look forward to seeing those guys and seeing how he does.
Yeah, it's always a tough job, though, to take these kind of roles, because what's the measure of success for the Orlando Magic? It's not going to be based on wins and losses for the first couple of seasons, but there will eventually be a third or fourth season where they start to expect playoffs, and the rebuilds are always hit or miss, and it can somewhat backfire on head coaches. Like you said, look, it's great. He's got his foot in the door, so he's got a head coaching role. Who wouldn't want to be happy? But on the flip side, if God forbid it doesn't work out after a year or two, then he's kind of back to the bottom of that list of next assistants to get a head coaching jobs. For people out there, there's a lot that goes into these decisions. There were, back in the day, I don't have any names off the top of my head, but there were a bunch of assistants, mainly Spurs guys, funnily enough, that would knock back jobs that had head coach openings that were just known as bad jobs or suicide jobs as per se, and they wouldn't take them. But I think those days are gone. You kind of have to take what you're given. But, I think it does hopefully work out. Jamal's got a lot of good things about him that he can implement, a lot of good in his coaching style. He's worked for numerous different coaches, played all around the world, which helps as well with his network and whatnot, and having a bit of international influence in his coaching most likely. So I think it's a good hiring. And honestly, for the Orlando Magic, I don't think they could have messed this hire up anyway. No disrespect to Mo, but they're in a full rebuild. So I think whoever they get is going to be a young, enthusiastic guy like Mosley was probably the right decision. You probably wouldn't want a veteran head coach for that group, and it looks as though, he'll have his work cut out for him. Yeah,
I definitely think he has his work cut out for him. But, the one thing he does is players gravitate to him. So he's going to control the locker room. Look, he's replacing a hell of a fucking coach in Steve Clifford, a hell of a coach. So it wasn't like Steve Clifford couldn't do the job. It wasn't like the locker room totally boycotted him and shut him off. They just weren't good. They probably thought, look, we'll get a younger coach in here. He was probably a little frustrated without any intel or anything. I'm just going on what I think. Like Clifford was probably frustrated because they had this team that was sort of a borderline playoff team with their talent, and they shipped all the talent out. So now you got Jamal. I think Jamal will control the locker room. I think that players would really respect him because of his work ethic. The guy straps it up every fucking day and goes out and beats guys up, defending them in workouts and stuff like that. So, I mean, he just has a great way about him as far as with people. He knows how to treat people the right way. And as we know, a lot of head coaches in the league do not treat people the right way. And I think he'll treat his staff the right way. I think he'll treat his players the right way. Again, there's no fucking secret formula of winning games in the NBA. So it ain't like he's going to give them 30 extra wins because of his coaching. He's going to have to build that team up based on his talent and develop some of these players. And they got to draft well, and they got to sign good free agents, or it's not going to be a good time for him, in 2-3 years from now. I think he could definitely just keep everybody together. I think they could fight for him. I think they'll scrap. But again, his talent needs to improve on his team. This is a tough job. The ownership is good there. They're not meddling like some other bad places in the NBA. They will spend money when they need to spend money. So if they could just get it right with the draft and some of the free agents they sign, I think he'll be okay. If they don't, it's going to be tough for him. But I think that, look, there's only 30 of these things. You can't kick back jobs like you said, like they did back in the day. Because look, you never know. Because as an assistant coach, in my opinion, your team has to be successful and win for you to have a chance to really get these head jobs. Because they're not going to get, like, if Monty Williams wins a championship, which it looks like he's going to, no team's going to get Monty Williams. So what they're going to do is they really think that by hiring the next assistant over or the second assistant over from him, they're going to like rub off like they did, like Indiana thought with hiring, Bjorken from Toronto. They think because they won a championship that those guys have it. And that's not necessarily true. Some coaches on winning staffs are fucking completely insane. I wouldn't have them coach third grade fucking teams. But so I don't think you should hire an assistant based off if they win a championship or not. I think you just need to hire them by watching what they do with players, how they talk to the media, how they handle themselves, your intel. I think Jamal will do well, but for him to have longevity in that job, they're going to have to upgrade their talent.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's a talent-driven league. And it's always interesting to me to see an assistant coach go from assistant to head coach. I usually think it's better to go to a different team because that relationship you have as an assistant with players generally has to change. So we'll keep an watch on that. Have you seen the new logo proposed by the NBA Pro for next season?
Oh, God. Yeah, I had the same reaction to that my wife did when she saw me without a shirt on for the first time.
It's horrible.
I'm not a fan of it.
It's so bad. So for those that haven't seen, you can Google it. The new logo is a fresh take on the league's iconic logo man identity based in the classic 75th anniversary symbol, the diamond. So it's got a 75, it's around a diamond. One glaring thing in this Pro is the logo and the logo man is white. So we could have a few more boycotts in the coming months in next season, Pro.
I don't know, man. What the fuck? Like, come on. I mean, you can't fuck up a free lunch. The logo is good. Everybody loves the fucking logo.
Everyone
right?
loves the logo, but it's noticeable the logo is white. That's all I'm saying. And, player
empowerment. Of course.
Kyrie might not play another game in that 75th anniversary season.
No doubt. I mean, what are you going to do? Come on. I mean, it's a fucking logo.
But the actual 75th anniversary logo is not a pretty logo to look at. I just think KISS, keep it simple, stupid. It makes sense with this. The logo is iconic as it is. Use the usual logo and maybe just throw a little 75 in there somewhere. And I think we've done it. We've done a good job, Pro.
Yeah, man. I'm just look. I got no autistic fucking talent in my body. I got no talent in my body. Period. But this is fucking brutal, in my opinion. I'm not a fan. So God bless you, whoever designed it. I have nothing against you. I'll send you some Alpo for your CNI dog, the person who fucking designed it. But I got nothing against you as a person. But that's just, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Enough said. Real quick, the Overtime League, big signing for them. High school junior Jalen Lewis is signing a $1 million plus contract with the new Overtime Elite League. Sources tell The Athletic. He's only a junior at the moment in high school, so that is a huge, huge deal. He's 16 years old, youngest player ever to turn pro in American basketball. So the leagues, they're putting their money where their mouth is and spending money like they said they would.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to have to because look, they're a first deal entity. Like, no one knows anything about them. So when players are thinking about going to Kentucky, and now with the likeness deal where they can make some money, obviously not this much money, but they can make some money and they could play at a place that's pretty stable or go to the G League with their program. They're going to have to overspend. They're going to have to compete with these guys and way overpay. It's sort of like players coming out for the NBA, right? And they get contracts from Nike and they get contracts from like Adidas or Reebok. You're going to have to fucking overpay Nike like 3-4 times on their deal. They'll take a quarter what they take in some cases from like a brand they really trust versus a brand they don't really want to use. But if you overpay them enough, they'll go. They're going to have to continue to spend like this to get players because this might be a complete shit show after a year where like, yes, players are getting paid, but they're not developing. And it's a shit show. There's no coach. You never know how this thing's going to play. You know?
And everyone just jumps ship. Yeah, exactly. So, but they are spending it, and they've got a lot of venture capital money involved in it. So it'll be interesting to see once the actual games get up what the quality is like. If I can get that out, what the standard of refereeing is like, what the standard of the games are like. So there's a lot to go into it than just signing superstar players. So we'll continue to watch that space. The Olympic pools or the seeding, however you want to call it, it's been finalized. So the qualifying tournaments, there was one in Canada, one in Serbia, and one in Croatia. That's all finished. So we'll go through the groups real quick. Group C, Argentina, Japan, Spain, and Slovenia. So Slovenia took that qualifying spot. Luka went off and had a triple-double in the final. got them in the last spot. That's a pretty tough group, bro, but we'll just go over them this week because next week we have a very special guest joining us, bro. That'll help us discuss and break down the Olympic stuff. So I'm sure you'll be excited.
We're getting the CEO of McDonald's?
He's a chef.
Oh, special to me. I'm sorry. Not you say special to the show, not just to me. I apologize.
Not just to you. I did see you find a McDonald's in Greece, though. Of course you did. Such an American thing to do.
Yeah, it brought a tear to my eye.
All right, Group B. This is Australia's group. Australia and Nigeria were qualified. Germany and Italy were the late qualifiers. So Italy came out and beat, I believe it was Serbia, in Serbia, which you don't see very often. So everyone thought Serbia was going to come out of that pool. They didn't. And then Germany came out of their side of things. They came out of the Croatian bracket and they beat Brazil in the final. So Australia, Nigeria, Germany, Italy. Now Nigeria, as we said earlier, they just beat the US in a friendly game. I said from the start, they're not going to be an easy beat. They've always been a team with a lot of athleticism, a lot of kind of talent, but they just had either Nigerian coaches or European coaches, and it was just always a shit show. Just never looked organized, and they just literally went out there and just played almost kind of a free-flowing street ball type game with no structure. Now they've got a coach that does that in Mike Brown. That's very, very structured, very hard-nosed coach, and they looked phenomenal today against the USA. I'm not sure if you saw that game, but albeit they shot three ball at an insane clip, over 50% for the game, but they look phenomenal, bro.
You know, Bogues, this national team stuff is amazing. You get pride not only in your country, but like you get pride to kick the shit out of any team that you play. You don't care. And it just goes to show you, we've seen this in American teams, probably in the past, that Larry Brown team that they got a little cocky, like in the early 2000s, and they got their ass handed to them, like in the World Championships and the Olympics. Any game, now look, there might be a talent disparity without question, but look, if you play hard enough, you play disciplined enough, and you don't care about who you're playing, the names in the back of the jerseys and the team that you're playing, you just want to fucking go out and just play your hottest, and you might get a little lucky. That's what they did. I mean, I didn't see the game, but I mean, that's cool. That's really cool to see to me. That's why I love the Olympics. I love any like FIBA deal, Olympics or World Championships, because you never know what you're going to get. You never know how these things are going to go, unless it was 92 with the Dream Team, of course. But it's good to see. It's cool to see. I'm sure the U.S. would, lick their wounds and be like, you know what? All right, we can't just. This ain't going to be a fucking. This ain't going to be the and one mixtape tour. We could just show up and fucking play, or a Globetrotter game against the Washington fucking Wizards.
And you'd rather the loss be now than not in 2 weeks' time. So that's the one positive for the US. This game didn't matter.
Yeah.
But for Nigeria, it mattered. This is the first time, I believe, that an African nation has ever beaten the USA basketball team. So they've created history, much like Australia did last 2 years ago when they we beat Team USA here in Melbourne. It was our first time ever beating them. So more and more teams are starting to get them. I think the world's getting closer, and that's the beauty of international basketball. It's one game. Now, I'll always I'll die on this hill. If you have to play Team USA in a 7-game series, you're not going to win that series. Generally, no team's really going to win that series. But a one-off game, an injury, foul trouble, someone gets hot from three for you, someone's ice cold for them, you win the game. And that's the beauty of this tournament. So I'll finish off Group A real quick. It's Iran, France, USA, and Czech Republic. Czech Republic were a late qualifier from that group. But yeah, that's the beauty of international basketball, and something I've always liked about it is on any given night, someone can get hot, something crazy can happen, a bit of luck, a lucky bounce, and bam. So we saw that today with the USA and Nigeria. As we speak, Argentina is up 5 at halftime against Australia. Australia looking a little clunky in their first half, not showing a lot of just straight mid-pick and rolls is what I'm seeing. So I think there'll be a lot that they're going to leave in the bag until the tournament starts. That's the other thing, pro. These friendly games leading up to an Olympic Games or a World Cup, it's a chess game as well. You don't want to show your whole hand because every team's got scouts there. You don't want to really run your quick hitter stuff. You don't want to show too much. You want to play a kind of a helter-skelter game. But on the flip side, you need to kind of run your shit as well and get a good flow and feel about it. So it's one of those things. Like, what would you do, pro, as a coach leading into these tournaments in friendlies? Would you show your hand and make sure your guys are familiar with it and you've got it down pat? Or would you leave some stuff in your pocket, but then probably have that in the back of your mind of like, fuck, we haven't ran this that much?
Bogues, this is why the fucking game's fucked up sometimes. People get too tricky. People try to play the cute game and say, because they want some fucking analyst to tell you you're a fucking genius that you didn't show your whole hand. Here's the thing. Here's when anyone wants to compare themselves as a player to like a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan or a Larry Bird, they didn't give a fuck who they played. They gave their whole fucking, they threw everything at their opponent. They don't care if they were playing a third grade kid with 6 fingers. They would destroy them. And they're not taking anybody lightly. They're going to fucking destroy you. If you want to be a player at a high stage in the Olympics, in the NBA, in college, high school, club, whatever, you have to look at that opponent and never take them lightly. And you destroy them by 90 if you can. That's the difference between being a great competitor and not a great competitor. And teams like the United States, like if you like, you got a lot of players that are trying to like sort of, try to make a name for themselves. If you want to make a name for yourselves, you got to compete. It doesn't matter who you're competing against. I don't care if you're playing against a Caribbean island. You don't have to play against Serbia or Australia or Spain or Argentina to really give it every night, or the gold medal game. Like, you got to give it. And as a coach, like, look, the fucking Utah Jazz ran 3 fucking plays and they made 2 championships and nobody knew how to fucking defend them. So like, it didn't matter.
Fair.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody knew the fucking pick and roll.
So you'd be a coach that wouldn't hide your hand, I assume.
Fuck no. I'd be eating McDonald's on the fucking sideline. I'd be doing everything I could. You know what I'm saying, folks? Why the fuck hide anything?
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't. Who the fuck cares? Nobody runs plays anymore anyway. What are you going to run? Some fucking super play that's never been run before? Fuck that shit.
Yeah, it's just a chess game, I've noticed. It happens a lot in international basketball. The Euros are notorious for it. There are teams that do it. There are teams that try to hide their shit. They try to, and there's a chess game within that. And I think a lot of times, like you said, I think it's overemphasized or overthinking things. And then I'm more in the boat of, maybe some of your quick hitters, maybe you don't need to run those. Like if it's a quick hitter, like, hey, This is a short clock play from the baseline out of bounds or sideline, fair enough. But all your other stuff, I want to get through it as much as possible. They've only had 1 training camp together as a squad, at least the Australian team. So I want to run it as much as I can. But have you seen the how the seeding works for the Olympics? This is a fucking algorithm and a half, bro.
Dude, I don't know. Yeah, I started watching the Olympics in 84. I have no fucking idea how you make the Olympics, how you fucking get to the Olympics. I don't know anything about the fucking Olympics.
I'm talking about the current. So you got. So it used to be 12.
Yeah.
It used to be. There's always historically been 12 basketball teams, men's basketball teams that get in. It's always been 12.
Yeah.
It used to be just 6 and 6, right? It used to be 6 and 6.
Right.
And top 4 on each pool get in, and they cross over and play in a quarterfinals, semifinals, gold medal. Very easy.
Right.
Very easy on the brain for you and I. Nothing crazy about it. So now these dudes have gone to 3 pools of 4, right?
Right. Yep.
Whoever finishes first in those 3 pools goes into one pot.
Right.
The best, the highest placed by percentage, second place team. So only 1 second place team out of all those pools also goes into that pot. So that's 4 teams. Your 3 first places and your first second placer. Then you've got two more second place teams left. They go into a pot, and then your top 2 third place teams go into a pot. You got all that, and then they cross over.
Hold on. Carry the 2, 3 times pi. Okay, I got it. Go ahead.
Those ones. But I just don't understand why they've done this. It equates to 1 less game, because in a pool of 6 and 6, you play 5 games, and then 2 less games, actually. I'm wrong. But it's just a weird one. It's just the way it works. I guess for Australia, for everyone listening, obviously we want to finish first. But if for some reason we don't finish first in our pool, we want to be the best placed second team, because otherwise we will be put in the crossover against the US. So if you finish first or top place second, you will more than likely be in the same pot as the US, which means, you won't face them to a potential gold medal match. So that's the big one for Australian fans out there. Yeah, anyone wanting to avoid the US early, because if you're the crossover pool against the US, you might get them in a quarterfinal, and then you're out of there. High chance you're out of there.
We're gonna have a little Clipper tanking going on, Bogues, in these things.
And that's happened before. That's happened before too.
Yeah. They don't, you know what? 2 less games is good for the Olympic organizers. Did you read? They're losing $25 billion on the Olympics.
Really?
This year.
Wow, you finally brought something to the run sheet. Fantastic. Thanks for letting me know. But that's great.
Folks, $25 billion because they can't have fans. And then all the pandemic stuff, they've lost sponsors. $25 billion fucking dollars. It's pretty. It was cool yesterday when we were in Greece. The guy that brought me here took me around. Drove by the beach and things, and dodged a few harpoons from fishermen. That I thought I was going to get in the water, but we drove by the Olympic venues, and they're all fucking abandoned.
Derelict, man. I played at that one. They're derelict, I heard.
It's great. It's beautiful, but sad. And like they build all this infrastructure with the, and I asked them, like baseball fields and cricket gyms and basketball gyms, and there's like grass coming out of it. And like they're abandoned. And I asked them, I said, why don't you just give these venues to colleges or like the Olympic Village? Like they said, yeah, it's about 30 minutes up, it's about 45 minutes away from here and it's abandoned. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, but now I guess because of the no fans thing or no fans that come, I mean, all these countries lose money in the Olympics. You know what I would do, Bogues, to be honest? I would keep it in Greece.
100%.
I'm not just saying that because
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Same place every year.
By the way, Bogues, I went to the first Olympic stadium that was built here. Bogues, I don't know how the fuck people don't die going up that. First of all, it was a fucking hike, right? But like these steps that they have to go up in that, like I wanted to go all the way to the top to see Athens. The fucking steps are like a complete straight down. I said, there's no fucking way. If I get up, I'm not coming down unless I'm in a fucking body bag. But the Olympic Stadium was beautiful. But like the people here love the Olympics because it obviously was created. There's a lot of tradition, a lot of history. And plus, you don't have to be these countries that, pay off the Olympic Committee to get the fucking Olympics.
The bankruptcy, usually bankrupts, like for instance, the Sydney Olympic Village, that's where the Kings play out of, Kudos Arena, right? We use the old Olympic arena that was built in 2000. It's still not an area that's popular. It's now just started to flip into heavy housing, high-rise apartments, right? And we see that with a lot of places. It's a gripe I've always had is they come in and pillage some of these countries. Now, Australia, first world country, US, they can survive. They can kind of tread water and be okay. It took the Sydney, that village area, to somewhat get people back there 10 to 15 years. So if you're Athens or you're Brazil, Rio, like I heard Rio's already derelict. It's already empty, and it's like you feel sorry for these countries, what the IOC does to people, and people don't understand that they're a mafia within themselves. But I agree, Pro. I think have it in Athens every year. It's the home of the Olympics. It doesn't create a home advantage really for anyone but Greece. Great food, great weather, and it's something historic about having it there rather than every 4 years just absolutely pillaging some poor country. So the reason why, for those that don't know, Japan has announced a state of emergency with coronavirus, meaning that they thought they'd have half capacity, if not 2/3, zero capacity, Pro, no fans at the games. So that's where that 25 billion comes into play. Yeah,
it's pretty sad. And like I said, I would just have it in one place. They could upkeep the facilities, and you don't have to abandon them. You don't have to build all this infrastructure for what? I mean, what are you going to get out of it?
We all know why. We all know why this is going on, Pro. There's some suitcases of cash that are going to people to get the Olympic bids. Remember the old? I don't know if you probably don't follow soccer, but the FIFA
Utah.
No, the FIFA bids.
FIFA, yeah.
Do you remember that? Where there was like blatant bribes for like, I think they picked Qatar over like, it was going to be 50 degrees in Qatar and they picked them over someone else. But that's how it works with all these old school FIFAs and.
Folks, I'm sensing a new podcast for you covering the IOC.
Oh man, I've got no fun for the IOC. What shits me about these dudes as well is when you're in the village as an athlete, you're not allowed to promote your own sponsors. So once the Olympics starts, there's a rule, right? If I'm sponsored by, let's say McDonald's or Coca-Cola, whoever it is, I can't promote them on my own social media channels during that dead period of the Olympics. And I'm like, but you guys aren't paying us, and okay, for let's put this into perspective for people out there. NBA player like myself made a shitload of money, right? The problem is, let's say a dude that's on the rowing team or the archery team, his whole preparation for 4 years is usually funded by a sponsor. And their cherry at the top for funding a guy and taking that risk is that they hopefully have a gold medal for their country, great PR. Then the Olympics come, they can't even promote their fucking sponsor. That's why I can't stand these guys. IOC, I think it's the biggest rort. You got them and the NCAA about who wants to do the most dodgy things and preach to the choir. And I think the IOC is almost overtaking them because it is.
Hold on, Bogues. I got to leave this message real quick. Hold on. Hey, Lawndale, I gave you 10 grand to wear that Pro Pizza jersey. I want my fucking money back, okay? You can't wear it. I want my fucking money back, Lawndale. 10 grand, all right? You can't wear my fucking pizza jersey, and now I'm all 10 fucking grand in a pizza jersey. I want that shit back. Okay, I'm
Pro's
sorry.
Pizza?
Go ahead.
Pro's Pizza?
Well, no. Remember that guy that made the pizza jersey for the Pro?
Yeah.
The Pro. Yeah, I paid Wandale 10 fucking grand to wear it around the Olympic Village. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I've got a short memory. Yeah, but anyway, that's my rant on the IOC and our rant. But I hope Athens that'd be nice. Just get it back to them. I don't even know where the next couple of ones are. I think it's Paris, right? Paris is 2024.
I've heard these countries now are going to stop bidding because of the fact that
not us.
Yeah, the pandemic.
We're bidding for. I think we're bidding for 28 or 30. I think it's 32. Maybe we're bidding for. Just like
fuck
we'll
shit,
take
man.
it. We'll pay for it. We'll bankrupt our nation even more after coronavirus. Oh god.
Why not? Why the fuck not?
All right. Well, we're on a timeline because Pro has to fly out because he could not organize a route in a brothel.
There's a weight limit on the FedEx plane that they're fucking shipping me out to, so I got to get there early.
Let's get to some stats. Useful or useless. This one's a stupidly fun one, but probably a dumb one. The team that have scored the first point in the last 4 finals have lost the finals, Pro. 2017, J.R. Smith, Warriors won. 2018, LeBron James, Warriors won. 2019, Steph Curry, Raptors won. 2020, Jay Crowder, Lakers won. And who scored the first point in 2021? Giannis. So Phoenix, put all your money on Phoenix, guys.
Jesus. The flip on this stat should be who Pro fucking went for in each of these championships. Fuck the first point. Whoever I said, the opposite's fucking winning. This stat is completely fucking stupid and useless, but it is funny. It is pretty funny.
I'm more surprised J.R. Smith shot at the right basket to start the game.
Yeah, that's a good point, JR. Boy.
Good old JR. All right, next one. Elite Company. Chris Paul is the first player with 30 points and 8 assists in an NBA Finals debut since Michael Jordan in 1991. Funny thing about this stat is Jordan had 36 and 12. So to make this stat work, they had to go minimum 30 and 8 just to include CP3.
Oh, boy. It's awesome. It's awesome, like, to the lengths they go to make these players look iconic. And look, Chris Paul is phenomenal, Hall of Famer or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty funny though. Like to try again, they make such a big stink. It's got nothing to do with Chris Paul. I like Chris Paul, but like they make like these people who do the games and cover for media. They go at all lengths. They hire NASA and half of MIT to fucking come up with these things to make these players put in the same category as like the elite of the NBA. And they try to get any type of stat going that like, well, Michael Jordan put his deodorant on his right armpit and so did fucking Giannis this game it's unbelievable the lengths they go to try to put these guys in the same category as some of the league's best that ever played.
It's a lot of work for an intern, I'll tell you that much. The last one we have is Devin Booker and Chris Paul have combined to score 113 points through the first 2 games of the finals. That's the most by a starting backcourt in the first 2 games of a final since starters were first tracked in 1971. That's Elias Sports, Pro. Another one for the
What do you think?
Useless.
What do you think, Bogues?
Useless. I mean, these ones kill me because they're just like, who can even be bothered researching this? And we're just clutching at straws. Like back to the Chris Paul one. Chris Paul's great in his own right. You don't need to bring Jordan into it. Jordan had 36 and 12. Chris has had 30 and 8. You don't need to bring Jordan into it and then say, oh, minimum of 30 and 8. Like we see what you're doing. We get it. But just stop. Just stop with the stupid stats. It's funny, these out of all 3 of these, the most useful one was the whoever scored the first point in the NBA Finals, in my opinion.
I love that one. Hey, shout out to Stat Muse on that one. Hats off, brother.
They're good. They're good. Stat Muse, I would highly recommend following them at Stat Muse.
I like them. Yeah.
They have some real good ones.
Like
they do some random trolling ones as well. It's my kind of page. So fact or fake news, Pro? What you got?
Bogues, this is obviously finals related on all 3, but if Phoenix wins the championship, would you consider Chris Paul historically better than Steve Nash?
Well, the way everything's weighted these days, everyone holds that championship ring up, like, oh, he doesn't have a ring, so in public sentiment, people probably will have Chris Paul above Steve Nash. It's tough. Steve Nash was one of the best to play the game, but also played in a very stat-inflating system. you have to remember D'Antoni's style was in basically emphasizing shots in the first 7 seconds, so there was a lot more opportunities. But I still think Steve Nash by an inch, and I'm not a fan of Chris Paul as a person, but I can separate the fact that he's a phenomenal player and leader on that team. So I think if he gets the ring, I'd have him equal to, if not a little bit past, Steve Nash.
Yeah, I would put Steve Nash ahead of Chris Paul. And look, what Chris has done throughout his career is phenomenal. It's been great. I mean, the guy's done very well throughout his career. Nash did play in a system that's sort of up tempo and push things, but also he won 2 MVPs. In my opinion, if you're an MVP, 2-time MVP, that obviously by your peers, people are saying, and I know we talk about the voting all the time and whatnot, but he's the best in the league for 2 years in a row and could have been 3. And, his team just wasn't good enough to get to a championship. I mean, they were good. They were really good, but they just didn't have enough. They had to face the Lakers, the Spurs, great iconic team. But I just think Nash, and before Steph Curry, I thought Nash was the best shooter of all time. And on top of the 2-time MVP, best shooter of all time before Curry, made his team better, advanced deep in the playoffs, I think. I didn't fact check this one, but I think he's done a little bit better in the playoffs than Chris Paul has, even though if Chris might win a championship. But I mean, look, it's not a personal thing. It's just more what your eyes see. There could be 1,000 other people that see it the other way, 1 million other people. But I think that Nash, being the 2-time MVP, taking his team deep playoffs consistently, the shooting. I'm always been a Nashy fan, but hats off to Chris Paul. I think Nash is a better player historically. And then again, Paul's going to play for 2 or 3 more years, so you never know what's going to happen, and it could change, in that sense.
I think 1-to-1, player to player, I take Steve Nash, but I think now if you factor in the championship ring that they should win, I think that changes the conversation just a little bit. But next one.
Bogues, there's been a lot of talk, the last few weeks comparing Devin Booker and Kobe Bryant. Devin Booker at this stage of his career is better than Kobe Bryant. Now you see, I think Stephen A. said it. I think Perkins weighed in on it. So what do you think about where he is right now? Not overall, but where he is right now versus Kobe. Where do you see things on that?
Fake news. I love Devin Booker. I think he's had a phenomenal year, but I think Kobe coming out of high school and the journey that he took, I'd still take Kobe at this point in his career over Devin Booker. I think Kobe had to take his lumps. But what is this for Devin Booker? 4, 5?
I think Booker's into his 5th or 6th year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Kobe. I don't even think it's that close, to be honest with you. I think this is just a good talking point for him to have. But yeah, I think I'll take Kobe. You?
Yeah, I'm with you on that boat.
Well, you have to say Kobe. You have to say Kobe will roll out of his grave and choke
I have to. Jesus Christ. I wouldn't have had a job. I wouldn't have had a job or get interviewed while I was here because of that. I wouldn't have been brought out here because of that. But to me, I think Kobe was better because of the fact that he dominated. He completely dominated on both ends of the floor. By the time his 4th or 5th year came up, I thought he was a dominating player on offensively and defensively, where Booker is a very good offensive player, very good. And he's built, I think this run has really solidified his place in the NBA, at a way higher clip than I think a lot of people probably viewed him. And he's doing phenomenal things. He's doing great things, but Kobe did it on both ends. And I know those guys had a relationship later in Kobe's life and career. I know Booker references him a lot, but I just think because he dominated both ends. Now Booker's played more minutes up to this point because Kobe really wasn't a starter until probably second year.
Eddie Jones.
Yeah, he wasn't a big Del Harris fan because of it. Del kept him on the bench, and Kobe would talk to me about. I remember when we were talking about new coaches, because when Phil was going to leave in like 2010, at the end of 2010, he said, "Hey, give me a list of coaches." So like I'm a huge Kevin McHale fan, so obviously I threw Kevin out there. I threw a few other guys, and I said Del Harris. He goes, "Hell no!" and with like 8 exclamation points, obviously because Del coached him hard. You know, Dell's an old school coach, but I don't think Kobe liked coming off the bench all that much. But yeah, I do remember that. But yeah, I wouldn't put Kobe and Devin in that same category just because of, again, statistically, probably Devin's doing better because he like I said, the minute thing, but Kobe's domination on both ends of the floor, and Booker's a solid to below average defender, where Kobe was just like fucking, dominating on that end. All right, last one, Bogues. Both Phoenix and Milwaukee will make at least the conference finals next year.
Fake news. Yeah, I think they won't. I think this is their opportunity. I've still got Brooklyn out east when they get healthy. I think Milwaukee did a fantastic job going this far, but I've still got Brooklyn out there. And I think this is Phoenix's year for them to do it. So I don't think they'll go back to conference finals. I think the Lakers will rebuild a little bit. The Clippers hopefully can get healthy again. It's a much tougher journey out west. If I had to pick one of those two, which one had a better chance, I would say Milwaukee has a better chance of making it back to the conference finals, funnily enough.
It's interesting. And you know what? Like early on when I thought about this question, the answer, I had the same answer. But you know what? I'm going to flip it. I'm going to say fact. I don't think one or both will be in the finals next year. But I do think that they can make the conference finals. Look, I think Milwaukee, hopefully, and again, we don't know about injuries, right? But I think Milwaukee will not only like have the guy, have the great Ragu, I think they call him, the kid that got hurt, DiVincenzo, I forgot the name.
DiVincenzo, yep.
But DiVincenzo, yes. The kid who played at Villanova. I think they'll add to that. They'll spend a little money with exceptions and things to bring in some more bench guys that could help them. I think they could get to the conference finals. They'll have Giannis. They'll have those three. We think they'll have those 3 guys back, and then they'll add to it. I don't know if either team or both teams will have enough to get through it to the finals. But conference finals, I think Phoenix has a different level of confidence in their game. They've had the experience now of going through this. It's not just a bubble playoff run. I mean, they had to play with fans and things at the end of the later half. And yes, they weren't expected to even do close to what they're doing now. But I think now that they've been there, their players are stepping up. Their role players sort of know their role. There's no really internal friction that we know about. I think they can make the conference finals. If I had a guess who's going to make the final out of the group, Milwaukee might have the easier draw through there. But again, I think Phoenix could get to the finals again. I don't know if they win it at all, but I think they can get there. Who the fuck knows? Because we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. With Chris Paul, we don't know what's going to happen. He wants $100 million.
Well, that's the thing. If you're Phoenix, do you give it to him?
Bogues, at first I said no. It's too much money. He's too old. But as that owner who's been
isn't there some sort of 38-year rule tweak or something where you can't give him a certain amount of years?
For a max, you can't give him a max, I think, Bogues. I think you can give him because you got his bird rights, you can give him money, but you can't give him a full-fledged 4-year max. But I think you can give him a 3-year deal. Look, the only team that's going to take him, if it's not Phoenix, is New York because of him and Leon Rose history. They got cap room. It's New York, and they're a better team. But I think, Bogues, this owner has taken he's been one of the biggest jokes in pro sports with Phoenix. And I think now that they've got this thing rolling, that I think PR-wise, he'll take a huge hit. And I think if he doesn't do it, and I think that now if I was them, I would do it, but I would probably partially guarantee the 3rd year. I would probably partially half guarantee it, to get a little bit off of it. But I think they have to do it based on, look, that team's a lot different without Chris Paul on it. And, look, I think Booker will get better. I think Ayton will get better, even though they're really good right now. But I think that they will give it because I don't think that owner, I think right now, you know how it is, Bogues. They could kill you. You win a championship, everything's fucking erased, and no one remembers 5 years ago. It's like the aging prom queen thing. Nobody remembers who was prom queen or Miss America back in or Miss Australia back in 2015. But they know who it is in 2021. They forget about you quick. So if he wants to sort of get rid of this bad publicity, I would sign him. Fuck it. You made all this money with the postseason and, with your CBA and all that stuff. I think they do it. Will it be a great deal? I don't know. Like, obviously, his age and injury history, you've done a great job with him this year. You never know what's going to happen in the future. But I think going forward, they probably have to do it because I like Campaign a lot. But if you lose Chris Paul, you got to go Campaign. He's a starting point guard. You're a lot different team. Let's be honest,
Yeah, it's fair enough. I somewhat agree. I mean, it's tough because he's aging. You don't want to pay him all that money and then he does his hamstring again or something like that. But at the same time, I think you pay him as a thank you for those 2 or 3 years. Worst case, he's one of your best coaches in a jersey that you'll have. So I think they're just going to have to eat that sandwich regardless of how it comes and however it turns out if they get a championship. All right, let's finish off Q&A real quick. We got some real good positive feedback on a topic that I at least find intriguing. You kind of do, but our friend Sherwood Strauss really does, to do with NBA TV ratings. Now, they are horrendous for the NBA Finals Pro. They are, I think, not even half as good as the last couple of seasons. It's been pretty bad, and some people will say it's a small market, it's coronavirus, whatever, but it is what it is. The numbers are really, really bad and concerning. I had a Q&A come through. It was more of a kind of some positive feedback and some stuff that we would find useful. So let me read through this. Really enjoying the honest commentary on the NBA. I want to help you speak the truth. From last week's episode, you mentioned the $75 billion figure the NBA was expecting for its next TV deal. Pro and I discussed that about next TV deal, if they do a in-season tournament, how that all works. It's going to put a figure together of around $75 billion. Well, as a former venture capital investor that focused primarily on TMT investments, which is television marketing, I assume, I can confidently say that that $75 billion number is an NBA fantasy. I could go on forever about why it won't happen, but the simple story is that the shrinking economics of the cable TV business model and changes in consumer consumption habits would make the deal financially unsustainable for any network. Just a few realities the league is facing. Cable TV subscriptions under 50% of its peak during the contract.
Crazy.
NBA TV ratings are falling faster than the rate of cable cord cutting. Netflix streaming has changed the consumer's tolerance to commercials, content ratio, which represented about 1/3 of revenue and time of these networks. So Netflix, there's no ads. So people are now getting used to Netflix and Stan and all these different things. You don't have ads. Competition from live entertainment platforms, YouTube, Twitch, is growing at 20%. CAGR. I'd have to look up what that means, but I assume it's annually or whatnot. And I can attest to the YouTube thing. I've watched plenty of shows via YouTube. Shout out to Kwame Brown. But there's plenty of shows out on YouTube and Twitch that I've watched. So I watch an iota of minuscule amount of cable TV, so I'm one of those people. A few challenges I perceive the NBA faces. The product is getting worse. Way too many reviews. Most end of games are drawn out and not entertaining. Too much flopping, polarizing players. Player movement impact on casual fans. DNP rest, general devaluing of regular season games. The league and networks being too political, woke, and hypocritical. Example, China. NBA stars are losing broad cultural relevance to youth and casuals. Lastly, the idea of streaming services and big tech are responsible for inflating the price of NBA rights is crazy. Extremely doubtful it would happen. It's not a big tech company DNA to outlay billions for services they don't own, so they wouldn't own the NBA. Most of these streaming companies now, they buy and own the product that they're putting on their platform. While Netflix is interested in creating more content they would own and is evergreen, I could provide much greater detail on why the NBA isn't leaving cable and big tech is not that interested. He also mentions, I write more about this stuff on my blog that shows some of the data, jfm-data.github.com/blog. So if anyone wants to read that, and then goes on to say that he wrote an article about Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor saga too. Look forward to your perspective on the drama. I expect it will turn more people off from watching the NBA Finals in reference to Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor. If you were the ESPN president, how would you have handled the situation? I guess that's his question, Pro, for his long-winded question for us about how would you handle the ESPN thing. But everything else, what are your thoughts?
Well, two things. A, Who wrote this? Evan Strauss from San Francisco.
Ethan Strauss's brother.
Yeah. It's Ethan Strauss.
This just says Joel from Canada. Joel from Canada. He makes some valid points though, bro.
Yeah, sure.
He has numbers to back up his points. I think he's onto something.
Oh, hey, without question, most of this stuff, if not all, is totally valid. That's my question was like, if all these ratings are coming in the way we talk about them, why are these TV deals going up? It's just crazy. It's crazy to me.
Are they going up though? Is that just fluff put out by Adam Silver right now to get on the negotiating table? Because it hasn't been signed yet.
It could be. Who the fuck knows, Bogues? You know, no. And I mean, how many percent of the people who actually fucking tell the truth these days? Who the fuck knows? I don't know. And that's the weird thing. If I'm a TV network, I'm not doing it. If these ratings are legit and all these subscription things are legit, I totally agree. And my second point of this is, Joel, please get a better fucking name for your blog, man. There's like 88 different dots on this blog, man. How about Joel's Take at joelstake.com? How about that? But no,
maybe he's an everyday working man. He can't afford to spend all his money on a blog he writes for fun, bro. Come on now.
It's a good point. No, but hey, look, very well thought out, very interesting stuff. I do think that, if I'm a TV network, I'm really thinking about, am I really going to break the bank on these deals if these ratings are like they are and the subscriptions are like they are? I think there's going to be a fucking problem here coming soon. If all this data is correct that we're talking about, if all this stuff's legit, which I believe it is, then there's got to be some fucking problem that comes soon.
On the flip side, live sport is probably the last beacon where commercials are acceptable. So that could be valuable as well. If you're looking at it the other way, like Joel mentioned, Netflix and that have given us now a steady diet of no more ads, right? So people are used to that now. They don't want to see ads, right? Because at Netflix, I watch what I want and go to bed, or I watch what I want and I'm done with it. Whereas I think it's still acceptable during live games, timeouts, and in football you've got downs. In Australian football you've got goals for you to flood the viewer with commercials. So that could have its own value, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense, folks, for sure. I don't even, you know me. I don't think of those things, and you do, and other people do. I'm not wired for it, but you're right. Like if I'm watching a movie, I don't want to see a fucking ad, right? If I'm watching a show, I don't want to watch an ad because, like you said, Netflix ruined that for us. We could binge it. We don't have to watch it. We're good. Any app that we get that there are ads, we pay the extra $2 so we don't see the fucking ads. We don't want to see them. It's interesting, but yeah, I mean, live sports is the only place that you can watch these commercials. Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, thanks for that. I thought it was insightful. I thought there was a lot of valid points because we hear a lot, these streaming companies are going to come after the NBA and that's going to boost the price up. And I think Joel has tabled some very valid points as to why they wouldn't, because they don't own the content. And that's the beauty of the NBA. They own their own content. They can obviously license it out and go from there. So we'll watch that space. And I guess that 75 billion number, we'll know in the near future if that was how far off it is. Because, if they only get 20 billion or whatever it is, there's going to be some writing on the wall. That's obviously for 6 or 7 years. Don't forget. But interesting times for the NBA. And like I said, I know for a fact that the NBA finals numbers are the worst of the last decade plus. They're absolutely horrible. So there are some concerns there. Let's get on to the next question so you can get to your flight. Question for the pod: would you rather win a ring in your first couple of years in the league and never reach the finals again, or wait until pretty much the end of your career, a la Chris Paul? So for me, I wouldn't care. I mean, I think winning a ring mid to late is better. Richard Jefferson always talked about when I played with him about, I think he went to the finals his first year in the league or second year in the league, and it kind of, then he had to go through some down years and it was hard to kind of comprehend what that was like because he experienced success so early. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to both of them. I'm not, swaying either way. I'd rather just get a ring, period, because there's a lot of guys that don't get it, but that's just me. I assume you'd be the same, pro. Just get a ring and get out of there.
Bogues, it doesn't really matter. Like you said, you just want to win one. And I don't know. I don't know what I would rather do. I'll tell you what, though. I think early on in your career, if you win a championship, I don't know what type of player this person's talking about, but if you're a great player or you're an average player or whatever, if you win one early, you might get the idea of what it takes to win. And I think it increases your value as a player to be able to do that early on in your career. And then, hey, look, you never know what the future is going to hold as far as winning it again. But I think if you taste it early in your career, now you go two ways. You could be you could way overrate yourself and just think that any team you go to, you're going to win and you're going to get fucked up the rest of your career. Or you take it like, look, I got to continue to replicate this. This is how championship teams are done. I could not only do it for myself, but I could then educate the next team I'm with to like, hey, look, this is how we did it. I remember with players that came from championship, Harrison Barnes did it when he came to Dallas. He would always preach about what Golden State did. And like he early on in his career got to win a championship. So now he could take that the rest of his career to like understand what it takes as far as the hard work and dealing with adversity and the things that he had to deal with to win a championship. It could help you, but yeah, it'll probably turn a player bitter if you win one early or have some success early. And then the next 15 years, you don't even get there. It could be a little bit, and then you could go out with the blaze of glory of winning a championship later in your career.
Like Chris Paul.
I can see how that is.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd rather win one early so to maybe get you on a good path later in your career. And again, you don't know.
Take the pressure off.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off. And as well as it educates you and maybe it takes you to a different path in your career as far as how you respect the game, you respect the work that goes into the game. I don't know. I have no fucking idea. I have the athletic fucking ability of a fucking wet turnip. I don't know what the fuck an athlete does and thinks, but I don't know. I just want to win one. I would agree. I just want to win one.
And Chris goes on to then ask, what does winning chips do in contract negotiations if you aren't the superstar of the team? Is there a big difference for someone who might have been in the right place at the right time at the start of their career, which would affect future contract negotiations? You've hit it on the head. And that's one thing we always preached in our group in Golden State is that if we win a championship, teams are going to poach our 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th man for the very reason Pro just said. They were on a championship team. So, if, we might overpay that guy a couple of million a year. Justin Holiday was a prime example. He got poached by us and went on. Now he's playing, very well. He's been around the league a little bit, but got some money because he was a guy that played his role when he came in. He had some intrigue about his length and size, could shoot the three ball, but was stuck behind, Clay, Steph, and a few other guys. But we won a championship and he wasn't a dickhead. He was a great teammate. And then now teams that are either looking to rebuild might sign a veteran guy that's been on a championship team and overpay a little bit. So it definitely helps you. If, those guys that are fringe bench guys or almost on the roster, off the roster, they get rewarded heavily too. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. And that's the beauty of a team that is trying to win a championship. You always preach, like, everyone buy in, everyone will get rewarded. But a lot of teams and a lot of guys are like, yeah, let me just get my stats and I'll get paid. Where I think the tides have turned a little bit in the NBA where, if you're part of a winning team and culture, there's almost a value in that rather than a guy that's on a team that won 20 games that averaged 20 a game, So it's kind of changed a little bit.
I do. I agree. I think you're going to get overpaid. I think you're going to get overvalued, which is good. It's great for a player. And coaches get overpaid and players get overpaid and front office guys get overpaid. They get poached. And sometimes, like when the Sixers won it, not won it, but they lost to the Lakers with Iverson. They restructured everybody's deal after that, and everybody got paid. When Richard Jefferson went to the finals and didn't win, but they went to the finals with Jason Kidd in New Jersey, all those guys got paid. They owed half their fucking money to Jason Kidd because most of those guys weren't that good, and fucking Jason Kidd made them look a lot better. But like when you win, everybody wins, and they want winning players. I remember Rick Carlisle saying that, to teams like early on in my stay in Dallas, like he said, look, like everybody wants winners. Like you win, everybody's valued that way. And I think if you win championships, it definitely helps you tenfold. And if you're the best player on that team, you could actually turn iconic if you win a championship and you're best player on a championship team. Even if you're not at that level, they're going to pump you to that level because of the fact that you won a championship. It might be fair, it might not be fair, but it is what it is. It's an interesting phenomenon when teams win championships.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, for those listening that are playing roles in their teams, it can be invaluable at times. But Pro has a hard stop in 1 minute, needs to get on his flight. Hopefully he doesn't miss this one and has all these vaccinations in order and enough euros in those suitcases. So,
Bogues, great fucking story from yesterday. So we go see the ruins. We go see like great things around Athens. We're supposed to go to the biggest the biggest museum in fucking Athens. We waited 30 minutes in line because they weren't letting a lot of people in. So we're like third in, and I got this text from the airline saying, check into your flight. And I'm checked in. I'm fully vaccinated, whatever. So I thought I was all set. They never told me about this stuff. So I go to check in. They go, you need a COVID test. I'm like, how the fuck do I get a PCR test? It takes like a day or two in the United States to get your results. I'm fucked. My guy, who's the most connected guy in Athens I've ever seen, makes like 3 phone calls. I felt like a fucking mob guy that got fucking shot, and this guy takes me to a vet clinic in the middle of fucking nowhere to get fucking sewn up. He called this clinic. We're fucking rushing to get this fucking clinic. I go to the clinic, and I'm like, all right, I'm fucking good now. This guy fucking literally sticks this thing up my nose. Now, I did the PCR test myself in a CVS drive-through in the United States, and they watch you do it to see if you go far enough up. And then, I go, you go a little bit up, and that's fine. It's not that uncomfortable. This guy scratched my back from the inside. He stuck that shit.
Brain.
Oh yeah, no, he went past my brain all the way down to my fucking back. He was scratching my back from the other side, from the inside. I'm like, if this guy doesn't like Donald Trump or the United States, I'm fucked. I thought I was fucking done. I thought I was going to get buried under an island. But yes, I got my fucking test back last night. One of the coaches, his birthday was like midnight. I'm sweating out my test. The fucking guy, they're blowing out his candles for his birthday cake. I jump up and go, fucking yeah, I got my fucking test back and I was negative. And this fucking guy goes, hey, it's my birthday. What the fuck you doing? I'm like, hey, asshole, I got to get on a fucking flight. Fuck off. But yeah, that's my story.
It's me. It's all about me, it's not your day. It's my day.
Yeah, fuck off. I need to get on this flight. Again, we talk about it. I'm all good if it doesn't have anything to do with me, but it has to do with me. So all man for himself, motherfucker. Fuck off with that birthday cake.
All right, that wraps up episode, 28? Remember, 28. we have a special guest next week coming to have a chat to us, an esteemed person in Australian basketball. So he'll have a good chat to us about the Olympics and what we should expect, and Pro can break his nuts a little bit about his old days. So join us then.
Broke her off, I hope.
No, it's not broke her off. It's not broke her off.
Ah, fuck. Okay.
Maybe one day we'll get the accountant on here. He can do our bookkeeping for your pay.
Yeah, no doubt.
Till then, at Rogue Bogues, social media platforms, at Rogue Bogues on all good podcast platforms, and we'll see you next week. Safe travels, bro.
All right, brother. Thanks, and I'll see you when I get back.